Salam alaikum alaikum salam. This is Tata Matamba. Today we're going to do a video on music in Palo Mayombe. It's not going to be a very long video. I've been requested to do a video over the history of the music and the reason why, the Mambos and the Yimbulas are very much a part of the practice of Palo Mayombe or any of these African tradition religions. So for us to understand these practices, we have to understand what is music. Music is the art of combining vocal or instrumental sounds to produce harmony or expressions of emotion. All right, I want you guys to remember that emotion part. It's the combination of audio frequency, vibrations in a intricate patterns. Music, right, has the power to alter one's mood, shift our perception, and it inspires change. Music has always played a significant role in shaping and expressing cultural identity. And the Bakongo, and in Palo Mayombe, and even us within us Hispanics, music is part of our cultural identity. If you're Hispanic, you know that early in the morning on a Saturday, our mothers, they blast the music while they're cleaning the house, and we can't sleep in. Or on the cookouts, our fathers, while they're cooking the meat, they play certain musics, quinceañeras. There's a certain expression, right, that has to do with our cultural identity. Now, the bakongo, the instruments that they would use to play music would be bells, the dimbu, rattles, the shakashakas, the xylophones, which was called the balaku, drums, which were ngoma, koyondo, mondo, lukembi, and they had many names for drum depending which type of drum it was. And obviously the drum was a very intricate part of the music, because they'll even use it for communication, for rituals, for spirituality, for political reasons, and we'll get all into that. I'm gonna go ahead and look up some pictures of each of these instruments that they would use. Here is a bell, the dimbu. The same way the hunter follows the sound of the dog's bell while they are hunting, the Nganga uses a bell to call the spirits when he was performing his rituals, to call to that present moment. The same way that dog would alert the hunter to follow in the hunt. So now here's the shakashakas. These rattles can also be used to call or to expel spirits, depending on the ceremony and the purpose they'll be shaken. This is the xylophone, the palaku. It also would be used in ceremonies. Here's the lamellophone, or the mayemba, or lungungu. That is like a piano used with thumbs. And here's the drum that they will use. There's many different types of drums, but this is the one that has a slit in it. And they'll use this also in rituals and ceremonies. Now, the Bakongo use these instruments as a way of communication and signaling. Conventional ways of signaling, spiritual ways of signaling, and political, right? They'll use these things for political politics to signal. Conventional way, an example, is the instrument was played to signal lions or robbers are in the area, depending on what instrument and what purpose they would use it for. The spiritual, the nkonko, was played during the circumcision ceremonies and initiation. This had to do more with the Lemba tribe and stuff like that. But I'm pretty sure different tribes had different instruments for their ceremonies and what they would play. Now, political, the drums were played in arrival of a chief or the king, for politics, and even probably when they made treaties or agreements, politically, they would after celebrate those agreements or marriages between tribes. So let's go ahead and look at some pictures now. The Bakongo understood we are what we consume. We are what we see, hear, and experience. We are much more than what we are taught. And teaching isn't confined inside our Western educational system only. Teaching happens through spoken or unspoken words. It happens through gestures, experience, music, media, television, cell phones. We are receiving information, minikaye mininye, ways of information through our senses and learning and evolving constantly. The music we hear or consume, the very music we let our children listen to, affects everything it touches. It's Kinenga. And if you haven't seen the video of Kinenga, you guys can go ahead and watch it. The Bakongo understood the importance of music and its role in life and how it affected everything, even the Kinenga. Now, the drum language. This secret language that is composed of certain sound patterns is for initiated members only. Each drum sound is a encoded sound of the core term it represents. And this is how they would request or play the drums. First thing they'll do, they'll play certain patterns of sounds and they'll request attention for transmission. Then they'll play other sounds declaring who is sending the message. Then after that, they'll play other sounds delivering the actual message. And then ending the transmission with the final sounds or codes or certain patterns of the drums. Very interesting way of communication from the Bakongo and their initiation secrets that they had, very interesting things. Now, let's go ahead and get into Cuba. These are instruments that you can find in Soul Congo. And the language is a little bit different than the Bakongo drums. Are called Masikila or Sina or Ngome. Each lineage have different names for them. El Cajon. I personally don't know the actual name in Bantu for Cajon. Then they have bells, which is Escuela Bembo. And there's another item now that I can remember. It's called an asada. It's like a flat metal blade that they used to do the ding, 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 like the bell sound for it. I think it's called a swivel hole, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can look it up. And they use that, to call the spirit, or when they're doing more of the, more possession work or stuff like that for spirits to come down. And that's what most of the time is constructed of mambos. And there'll be a gallo, and then there'll be a coro. There'll be like the head rooster or the lead. And then you have the chorus, which is the godchildren or the people who were there. And these songs or mambos are composed of emotion, history, directions, treaties, tratado. And they are used to orientate the spirit members inside the actual Nsokongo and even the ritual. They orientate all those things during those mambos. And each house and each lineage has their own mambos, and there's some that are everybody listens through YouTube, or many people know. And then there's some that are specifically to those houses and those tratados. So sometimes you can't just be singing mambos if you don't know what you're saying, and it's perfectly fine. Everybody goes through learning stages. And I always say, pick up a book or always ask somebody. There's a lot of information out here for you to truly understand the mambos and music and how it affects everything inside the Munanso Congo. Within the Bakongo, if you guys want to learn about that, I always say, look into anthropology, historians like Thompson, Robert Ferris, or Corson, Bennett, or Jones, Arthur Morris. These are all anthropologists, historians. There's so many of them. There's so many anthropologists and historians that speak about the Bakongo, and you can truly grasp the knowledge and the culture of the Bakongo, how beautiful it is, of where our roots come from. And we have to understand another thing, right? Cuba, we have the La Conga, right? The actual conga. That is another thing for for la salsa and merengue, la guaracha, and all these things that comes from Cuba. If you come to see it, mostly the roots of us Afro-Caribbean music and Latin music comes from like reggaeton and all that with the la conga y la bonga and all that stuff. So it's a lot of history, a lot of rich history, especially within the Cuban, Puerto Rican, or Hispanic culture. A lot of history within music. Let me see if I can go ahead and pull up some pictures of El Cajon so you guys can understand what that is. Most of the time, that's what we use inside of an Congo or inside of the House of the Spirits, right? They're gonna use more likely more cajons because the drums, at least within Africa and the Bakongo, they use that also to go to war, to identify or to communicate when we had to go to war or not to. But it was a specific drum. So let me go ahead and get a picture of the cajon. So this is a cajon. They use this a lot within, in Congo. Some people put patipemas on it, others do and don't. Be very careful. These are la conga. They also, many people play them inside the Congos. Music and within Palo Mayombe is very rich. You enjoy it. I'm gonna go ahead and leave you guys with Singatikanda Ningakatu Bukaku. Always uphold the tradition. Always make the right decisions for the tradition. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys for your time. Salam alaikum. Malaikum salam.